Hey, how's it going? This is part 2, technically, of part 9. Keith Busher from The Art of Keith Busher, Precious Mutations here. If you're just joining us and this is the first video you're watching, there's about 9 steps, 10 steps ahead of this one. You may want to go back and rewatch all those. We are sculpting with Abe's Epoxy Sculpt. It's the only thing that I use. You can find some and order it and then follow along with our tutorials, or use whatever clay it is that you use. That could work too. I use Abe's because it's self-drying and I don't have to bake. Here I'm using plastic, so I obviously can't bake it. But it's very strong, very resilient, superior product. I already made a video this morning, but I am really kind of feeling it today, this piece. I just don't want to make my videos more than 30 minutes long. So I want to kind of continue on this piece. I'm mixing up some more clay here, but I also don't want my videos longer than 30 minutes. So the last one was about 30 minutes. We did the chin and the cheeks on this kind of chubby skull on the bottom here. We were talking about gravity and how gravity is going to pull things down when your muscles relax and things start to decay and pull away from your bones and stuff like that. But I was really feeling it. I'm kind of, every now and again, well, for me, almost all the time, I get started working on a piece and I get really caught up in it, and I want to keep going with it, and I want to keep building it, and I want to keep doing it. And sometimes that can be detrimental because you end up screwing up something you did earlier when you should have just left it alone for a little while. One of the tips that I talk about early on is start multiple projects. Because this stuff is a self-drying clay, you have, like, if you want it to set to the point where you can continue working on it, you probably want to leave it for a couple of hours at very least, so that you're not really squishing it. It's workable for up to 4 hours, but at like 3 hours it's very hard, so you need to really push into it and you get some really fine details and that sort of thing. But in the first couple of hours it's still pretty soft, so if you're holding it in your hand, you can still end up leaving a pretty big thumbprint in it or something along those lines, and we don't want to do that. So jumping right in, because like I said, this is a continuation from about 5-10 minutes ago. We started doing a chubbier skull on the top, which meant that we needed to add some kind of fat rolls and those sorts of things. And gravity is going to pull that skin and make it more sallow and pull it down. So here, as opposed to this one, which is maybe a little bit fresher of a head, you see the lip is all still in here. We're going to add some boils and stuff. But here, maybe this one's a little bit older because there's a little more weight to the skin. It's really kind of starting to droop and pull away. So I'm going to use, I got my clay mixed in here. Your top lip still doesn't get very thick, so I don't think anyway. So we're going to try and maintain somewhat of a regular top lip, but we're going to be a little chubbier underneath the eyes here. So on this one, because the skull is a little more sallow, it's pulling in, you can really see the orbital bones. But because we have a little bit of a heavier case here, we don't need to worry so much about the orbital bones and leaving that detail. We're going to really kind of just, it ends up being like a more square face. Don't worry about the nose. We're going to fix the nose later. So we're going to add some more. We're just going to make this kind of a more boxy kind of face. We're going to blend it into the parts that we did over here. We left the muscle tissue going up and underneath, right? We're going to blend this in so that when we're working it, this is mostly why I wanted to continue this video today, is because it's a lot easier to blend in. You can still blend it in when it's dry. Once it's done, it is sandable and everything, so any seams or cracks you have, you can fill those in later. You can sand them down, you can blend it, that sort of thing. Paint will cover a lot of this stuff, but because we have a big heavy kind of face here, a big heavy head, I really wanted to kind of blend it in, at least for now. So we're just working the top lip like we did the bottom lip, or yeah, like we did the bottom face here. But we talked about weight and gravity and things being pulled down. So we're going to kind of come down a little bit more with the top lip this time. We still want to kind of keep it. When somebody's a little more plump, they have a little more of what they call like Cupid's bow lips. Edward Scissorhands is a good example of Cupid bow lips, right? But we're gonna just basically where it almost looks like a little bit of a heart, where you really get that more pronounced part at the top, where that spot where right under the bridge of your nose, right under the divider of your nostrils, where you got that little line. But through the studies and stuff, like I said, I like to look at stuff ahead of time. So I did my research and stuff, and you can see that it's really quite pronounced sometimes. So I'm actually going to break this apart a little bit, have it like drooping down. So I'm just using like a little hook piece here. These are not actually sculpting tools. This is something I found at the hardware store. But yeah, we're just gonna, even though that's really loose, when this hardens, that will all be nice and solid. So don't worry too much about that. You can take your knife, a fine point knife, just gonna add some like fatty tissue in there. Not too much though. This all gets covered in blood and stuff anyway, so so we're gonna kind of bring this down. Use our round tool. We're gonna keep this part here, like I said, where you've got the muscle tissue, so we're gonna keep that there. And we're gonna paint, so when we paint, we'll do kind of like a reddish, dark brown, dried blood kind of up around in here. And then the vein or the muscle tissue and stuff, we'll do it more like a pink. So you can really tell the difference, like pinks and whites. And you can really see the difference between the muscle tissue versus what's just skin. And it has a nice effect. It looks pretty cool. Okay. So we got those lips. I always like to texture my lips. Just gives them, I'm just barely touching the lips to make these lines, but it always really helps kind of do a little bit more for the face when you do the lines. Just adds, any texture you can add really adds to the piece and gives it a more three-dimensional, gives it a little bit more lifelike kind of feel. So because it's kind of drooping down and stuff too, you can really extend these lines because they'll be like stretch marks almost, right? It wants to pull itself, so we're gonna make it look like it's been pulling for a while. So we're gonna add some stretch marks in here. Right, those lines, remember we talked before when we did the smaller skull, we talked about those lines that go from kind of from your nostril down to the corner of your mouth and down and divide kind of your cheek to your chin. That's kind of where we're going to add some of our stretch marks. We'll add some more lines here, like it's been drooping for a little bit. I'll show you an example of a piece that I did where it's kind of, and I think you'll like it. You may have seen it before if you follow along on my Facebook or my Instagram page, which is also The Art of Keith Busher at Precious Mutations for that Facebook page. But it's also, on Instagram or Twitter, it's at Precious Mutator. So if you want to kind of see still pictures as opposed to watching 30-minute videos, you're not interested in necessarily learning how to do it or how it's done, but you do want to see what I'm building and how it's coming along and when something might be available for purchase, then that's a good place to go. Once again, Facebook, Art of Keith Busher, Precious Mutations. Instagram, Twitter at Precious Mutator, and yeah. So you'll see the pictures. I post a lot of progress pictures of stuff that I'm doing, and then, like I said, if these videos are not necessarily what you're looking for, and not all my videos on this channel are going to be tutorial videos. Some of them might just be weird things that I come across and weird places that I am. I'm definitely hoping that I can get some of my artist friends to come on board and show me some of the stuff that they do and how they do things. I'd really love to go thrift shopping with some people and kind of videotape that, because I think it would be really funny, and see different people's ideas and what they want to do. Okay, so there we added in some kind of texturing, right? Some stretch lines here. Now we're going to build out, when we build out the eyes and everything like that, we're going to make it more square so it looks like the face was a little more. But you see now, when we did the cheeks and stuff over here, why we built them out, right? Is now you kind of see how it's starting to sag and droop, and you want... And the best way to create depth, like I said before, is to take those little rounded tools. Why do I not have this ready? Any tool that has kind of a flat surface on it. I like this one here. And just really kind of push those back and in, and it gives it more of a, everything is coming away, falling apart kind of look. So here, you see this clay here is now probably about half an hour old, but you already see, like pushing here where we just put clay on is very easy, right? This is about half an hour old, right? And you see that we can really start, it's a little stiffer to push in, but we're really, if I wanted to, I could really get some super, super fine details into that. The good thing that I like about this stuff versus some of the other clays is it stays where you put it as you're building it, especially now once it starts to set a little bit. Now, the only thing is, if you mix it and then leave it sitting for about half an hour, it still has adhesive in it, but I find the adhesive doesn't stick as instantly as when it's fresh. So if you want to mix a couple pieces together and stick it there and then leave it for half an hour because you're trying to get some really good detail, you could do that. I think that's a fantastic idea, right? So the adhesion is there, but you want super fine details, then that's a good way to go about it. So stick the clay on, leave it for about half an hour, and then if you want really, really good details, come back and start putting those details in. I wanted to show you, okay, so